Hello, hello. Yes, yes. Hello. Yeah, that's too loud. All right. Yeah, like if I'm in conversational mode, I think it's okay. All right, let's keep it there. The music is way too loud, probably. Let's dip that down. Maybe there. Maybe there. All right, haven't streamed in forever, so we'll see what happens. Send up a flare. Let's see what we can do. Gosh knows. Plenty of things on my plate. Oh, great. Glad I already have drop frames. Let's not worry about that stuff too much today. As usual, every time I do anything, it's far too far apart for it to be anything like a smooth venture. I have to reinvent the wheel every time these days. Just because my schedule is so chaotic. Let me move these over here.
Welcome to Rivendell, Frodo Baggins.
Yeah, I just started. I don't like to build it up too much because, like, that always invites something to happen to interrupt it, right? There's like always something interrupting. So we have a small window, you know? I mean, it might be a large window. I might go a few hours. We'll see. When you're about to go to work, it's okay. You can watch it down later. I don't think I'm going to do the flower sketches right now. Not because I don't want to, but I feel like I need to be pulled into doing something. Hate to say it, but it's like I want to capitalize on what little momentum is still left to, like I might do like something that might play well, like in the, like I want to draw some Zelda stuff, basically. So, I've had this idea. I should switch over to Zelda music, of course. It's essentially what I'm thinking about doing is drawing some Midna. Well, I know, like, I have an idea for a piece that I know will play well, which is essentially just Midna, who's this girl, posing with the wolf version of Link. You know, sort of like girl and her dog. It's a little obvious. Many have done their own takes on it. Actually, it's not. I mean, it's an original idea in my head, but the reality is it's sort of obvious, and other people have thought of it too, and got there first, and that's okay. That's good for them. But I want to see if I can Get the germ of a piece started. So right now I'm just pulling up little bits of reference. This is Wolf version of Link. Yeah, a little bit of bait. I also want to make a good piece for like Little Mermaid stuff, and I might try that today too. I mean, I don't have to pick up my kids for a couple of hours, so we'll see. But exactly, it's a little bit like how can I, it's like I did the Goliath piece, so now I get to do like 3 sexy girl pieces and see how those do, kind of thing. So let's load them up. And just looking for references. These are nice. And when I look for references, I don't really want perfect, like, I think there is a school of thought that wants you to have like the most detailed, most amazing, clearest references you could possibly get. But I think if you've got like a deep fried reference, something that's a screenshot of a screenshot, that's better practice for your imagination. You'll be filling in the gaps of what you can't make out clearly with your imagination. Now here's an idea. This character, obviously this is the imp version of Midna, and she has her fans as well. This interesting stone helmet that she has would be a very interesting play of textures. So if you've got the fur, and the fur has its texture, and you've got her with this creamy skin, and it's sort of like creamy goth skin, and this kind of cool stone texture, that's sort of an interesting idea. Might be even better. Yeah, if it's a quiet stream, I don't mind either. I know I can get a lot done if chat isn't distracting, and that has its advantages. However, I'll be lonely. I'll be lonely if no one else chats. My family is good. Yeah, very pleased to. I've been doing good with sort of getting better on my more stabilized mental path. For instance, yesterday we had a party, and we were all enjoying ourselves and such, and I had some drinks, but not excessively, and I feel good today, and I'm drinking water. I've had coffee and water, and I'm not feeling like I'm going to have a panic attack, so it's always nice. And my kids are doing really good. Yeah, got caught up on homework, and it's almost summer vacation, so it's great. And like part of like oh, let's do a sober, let's try something new and do a sober stream, which is what this is. So this will be fun. Normally this makes me really nervous, and can be triggering. But here's some things that are going for me today. Is that I have actually, Danny, really quickly, because I trust your judgment. Is the music too loud? Is my voice too soft? Just let me know if anything sounds whack, please. If you can. So beyond that, yeah, it's almost summer vacation. Almost. It's like the last week of school. A lot of the big... It's all perfect. Oh, great to hear. So a lot of the big things that needed to happen, like at the end of year stuff, already happened. feels like... I mean, feels if there's anything left to do, it's too late to do it at this point. So hopefully my son is graduating kindergarten. I know my daughter is going to do just fine with going into 4th grade. And it's just the question is, these days, it's like, did we plan enough for their summer vacations? And if not, does it matter? And of course it doesn't. They don't even need swimming lessons anymore. They're both great swimmers. Everything's perfect. So just super happy about a lot of like the real important milestones being hit. So something will come along and really rock my world probably. But I'm happy enough today to say that I'm not streaming to escape. This is just well-timed bit of downtime. I have a job coming later today. It's going to be like the director says, you know, in the PM, I will get notes. But for right now, I got nothing better to do than warm up. So this is just a good use of my time. And I already cleaned the house and did all my chores and shit, so... Alright, so the first thing we do is we create a base white layer that isn't the background so that we can lock it off and therefore not draw on the background, because some programs, like Painter, don't have a background you can just eliminate onto transparency. You can draw on it and cause problems if you are not paying attention. Kids can do more drawing maybe during the summer break. I hope they will let me teach them how to do some art. They really don't let me do that. They are very I wish they weren't, but they are very creatively independent minded and really don't ask for help or assistance with art stuff. And I'm inclined to just let them learn it on their own, since they do seem to do a very good job of teaching themselves. But, you know, what can you do? Hey Donald. Welcome. If you're off to sleep, no worries. Lurk a bit. I'm very much debating. I know that Imp Midna and the textures I described earlier would be a very good piece. Fuck it, let's do it. I know it'll be a good piece. I don't need it. I don't need everything to be Gooner bait. Actually, here's the real twist: is that the imp version of Midna will probably prove to be better Gooner bait than the true form. So let's play into that for sure. Okay, so that sort of cinches it. We'll get some more Midna references. I'm not really criticizing anything here. Let's see here. Imp Midna. So let's pull this over here. We can do a little research together. Yeah, I'm gonna cook without intentionally creating Gooner bait, but it was like so ironic when I did the Starscream. I'm like, these are just simple transformers. No one will goon to this, and it was like, wow, that was a miscalculation for sure. Here we go. Listen, whatever floats your boat. There are definitely audiences for everything. Now this is official, I believe, Twilight Princess art. And yeah, so for instance, this is low res, like Wikipedia download, whatever. It's theoretically authentic, however low res, and that's perfect. We don't need high res references. We can make up our own stuff. Seems like everybody else did. So the vibe is something like this. We'll put them in space together. She's not writing him. It's more like, it's almost, so, growing up in my era, I was a teenager when, like, DMX music videos were coming out, and he had, like, pit bulls and stuff, and, like, Rottweilers and whatnot, and they'd have these, like, he'd have his dogs and, like, I think it was DMX. He'd have his dogs in, like, low angle, slow motion, like, the dogs are just, like, he's holding his dogs back with these chains, and, like, the dogs are just barking at the camera, like, ruff, ruff. They're just going crazy. And, you know, all the themes are here. So, Midna is like the rapper, like, enjoying, like, watching the dog. Almost like you don't know Rule 34. Yeah, exactly. Somehow I missed that part of the internet. It's like, I don't know, we don't need to talk about my preferences, but I'm very mainstream when it comes to that stuff. I don't need I'm like, I you know, leave it to the professionals. That content is just fine for me. Like it's a shamey thing. I guess I'm a normie gooner. Yeah, just very normie. Alrighty, here we go. I guess there are some exceptions, but we'll find time to indulge eventually. So, okay. Looking up Midna in Google Images. Yeah, it is risky. But I like to live dangerously, as we know. Who's that in chat? The text is so hard for me to read. Anyway, welcome. Yes, my risks. I'm known for my risk taking. Okay, so, and in this case, I will simply blame Google Images for any stream failures. This may be our... Oh, maybe this one. Yeah, this is good. I like this attitude. And this one is a good reference. And what I can do is put them next to each other. Oop. Put them next to each other. Take a screenshot of that. And this nicely deep-fried meme reference is, that's all I need. The rest we will use our imagination. So I'm gonna do something, which is pull up a reference. See how this works. Here we go. So this isn't a great way to show references, but it's something that at least you guys can see. I know I know people are watching like on their phones and stuff, and it's like impossible to see what I'm even doing. I appreciate people coming in and paying a little attention anyway. But, you know, we live in a world where there are those that... I don't know. Without talking about what others are doing, I will say as much this in the affirmative, in the positive sense, which is a good amount of the traction that I've had on Instagram, for instance, and TikTok is directly attributable to showing the process, the creative process, and being authentic and sort of. I think it's more appreciated in the condensed form than this sort of long form version with the streaming and whatnot. But the idea is that people do seem to appreciate the transparency and the process showing. And I do too, and I think I learn a lot from it doing myself. Namina, thank you for joining in. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly sketch out what will... Now, thumbnails are usually described as small, but, of course, on a digital image, I can just zoom out so it is small for me. But it'll just be a quick sketch to sort of see if I can secure some sort of germ. The simplest sort of visual representation of the idea that can grow into something cool. Now, I must shift over to Zelda music for this. This is what must happen. Maybe after this song. This one's cool. Just fire up. Some brushes. Just making some scribbly things to make sure I like the way the brush is handling. I do. Sometimes it can feel like, despite changing no settings, that a brush just feels different. Oh, you know what? I should get a hat. Here we go. I got it right here. Hell yeah. Just in case I get clipped for doing something awful, I can at least have hair that doesn't look messy. Okay. So the thing about Midna is she's got this giant helmet. That's tricky. I don't need the whole helmet. Woo, Twilight Princess. Yeah. Sextra, you missed the earlier debate about whether or not it should be True Form Midna or Imp Midna. And I was like, well, the Gooners will appreciate the True Form Midna. But like, I had all these ideas about, like, the texture and the Imp Midna, and it was sort of calling to me. And then I was like, oh, you know, the Gooners are going to appreciate the Imp Form Midna, too. And probably even more so. So... That's where we ended up. Not for the sake of the Gooners, but the... It's definitely going to be something for everybody today. A little too wide. Can't go wrong, yeah, that's true. I know I'm doing all my streams these days are spontaneous. There's no rhyme or reason to it, and it's not ideal to have nothing resembling a schedule. So if she's pulling on a leash, right? Let's say she's pulling, not even pulling on a leash, just his hair, right? Like Link's wolf form hair She's got a grip on it. We don't even need to see it. Her fist can be sort of just balled up and hidden. But we'll feel that she's pulling with her weight if we can really get in the body language in there. That requires careful attention to the to her posture. We probably see very little of the arm that's pulling, and then her other arm is like reaching over and like stabilizing. When an arm is bearing a lot of weight, what's sort of counterintuitive is that, well, it's not counterintuitive, but it's let me think here. Yeah, that makes sense. What's interesting is sometimes it can be counterintuitive, like how you position shoulders when they are bearing weight, for instance. Like if you're wearing a backpack, you'd think the backpack would weigh you down, so you would have that arm slump. But if you did that, the backpack would slide off. So actually what you do is you lean into the side of your body that isn't having the backpack on it, and that keeps the backpack on. But somewhat counterintuitively, like we have to, like if you imagine pulling on a it's a rope. What's the rope that the tug of war rope, right? You have to lean back and into it, and you have to make that, like the shoulder that's pulling on it, you have to make it like low center of gravity, right? So that's what's happening here. So she's pulling with this shoulder, which means it's lower. Now, if this shoulder's lower, it just makes sense compositionally to make opposite hip lower, which means this one goes up. And then again, it's the same thing with the head. The head gets tilted, sort of like stabilizing. A little bit like that. Of course, these aren't hard and fast rules, but if you break them, it's going to look like she's just going to fall over. So if you don't want her to look like she's falling over, you have to sort of balance this stuff. Now, she's a little big in the composition here, but I'm not going to mess with her just yet. Here, let's do a quick save. The Gooners will goon to anything, even a plank of wood. Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna... I think it's off to a good start so far. Let's see here. So in the negative space of Midna, we have to sort of cram in Link, who's of course a wolf in this depiction. You know, and Link gets to be... you know, angry, aggressive. Now I saw this cropped in a little bit more initially. So let me see what I can do to... I don't want them to be comparable in size. I want the wolf to be much bigger than Midna. And I want that to be clear. But I also need it to be essentially sort of center crop friendly. But still, like, a lot of Midna in there. So there's kind of like a, I want them a little bit like, sort of fighting to be the center. Like she is, like she's gleeful about, you know, essentially being like this animal is going to attack you if you get close, and that's exactly what I want. So come close. It's like I want the I want to feel some of that like go for it, like see what happens, fuck around and find out kind of attitude, right? And so it has to be a little subtle. I'm going to quickly pull up a reference, not a reference, but it's a this will be from the Gargoyles. There we go. So when I designed this one, I have this, which is, this is essentially the center cropping that I use for the... Okay, so that's looking good. Yeah, that hits right there. When posting on Instagram or TikTok, for instance, the full screen in a vertical mode has the sides a bit cropped, and it's not insignificant. So making sure that this is working with that cropping is sort of key. But I can see that it is working. It could even be a little bit more so. People have been... I don't know if it's easy to tag people with the this stuff, Danny, but... So one thing I've noticed is that people are pretty forgiving if it looks like things are cropped. And I do want some of that closeness in this image. I don't want... I don't need full bodies. Certainly done my time with that. But this is looking good. This is gonna slap. All right, so this is off to a good start. This is gonna hit for the Midna gooners and the furry gooners. You know what I mean? Like the between them all, I think Midna might be slightly easier to draw. The Goblin Gooners, yeah. And the genuine fans. It's funny about this stuff because, like, innocent-minded Twilight Princess fans will simply retweet, or, you know what, they'll be like, ah, perfectly good. And then others will be like, good, thanks for the share, gonna goon to this later. They'll be like, what? Huh? But we're all genuine fans. This is quite the helmet. Let's see here. I don't know if there's a lot of clear lore as to, like, the design of the helmet. Not to put Sexter in the spotlight, but I don't know, there might be... For instance, I never got any real sort of understanding as to sort of, like, where these designs derive from. They always seemed to me like they were like worms. Like this sort of worm-like thing. And these are sort of like Greek sort of design. It's like, of course it sort of reads like you've seen them like snakes. Yeah, but then snakes just aren't represented like anywhere else. Whereas for me, it was like, if you were going to... so my logic was that, like, if you were sort of like this, like, netherworldly, sort of gothic, sort of like world of the dark kind of thing, like an earth... like a nightcrawler, like earthworm, like, made more sense. Like... I've had no pushback in my varying interpretations on this stuff, which is nice. Sometimes I just think people are nice. Yeah, I don't know if they're evil earthworms. It's just sort of like... Also, like, stuff that represents decomposition and death. Or you know, they can represent a visual stand-in for the theme of death or passing or rebirth or whatever. Earthworms are pretty neutral and, you know, I don't think of them as evil. They certainly don't harm anything. They're just sort of like a natural... inescapable reality of life is like death, right? The challenge of drawing Midna without going straight to all the details on her helmet is impossible, but I'm gonna give this a shot. As usual, I want to have everybody looking directly at camera, if possible. Let's see what the helmet looks like. She has interesting proportions. Pretty good at drawing little... I've had a lot of experience like drawing like children's toy commercials and toys for kids and stuff like that, so and I have an animation far distant in the past, but I do know how to like draw this kind of face, which is sort of... I think I want her mouth a little bit more open. There's a face, if we've all seen Child's Play or are familiar with the franchise, like the Chucky doll, for instance. Keep it like that. If she would really have, like, I think I've drawn her shoulders a little big, but we need some sort of overlap here, so we'll get that in there like that, even if we have to force it. She's almost like, what's that trope where the really small character has a giant gun? And so, like, the wolf is like the gun, and she's like aiming it at us. Right? Yeah, that's the trope. And so even if, like, people don't see the trope, because it's like, it's not a gun, and, like, it's like not the quite that genre, but they'll see the trope, it will resonate with, due to the tropiness of it, because that's how I'm sort of thinking of it. Like, what's the attitude here? This is the attitude. The classic small character with the big gun. Geometry on this helmet is it's not symmetrical, near as I can tell. It's kind of looks like it would be, except it isn't. Which is good, because I don't have to make it perfect. But it's good to see that and recognize it. That's starting to look pretty cool for her. Okay, let's not go too far without remembering that Midna has ears. Pretty. And one thing I know is that fans of ears like to see them. You can make a small character look smaller by giving them big ears, and we can use that. Use that as a tool here. I don't have a plan or need for her hair to do much. I know her hair is like a kind of fun thing that she can do. I might have a ponytail yeah, let's have a ponytail sort of curl around and do something interesting here so that it has some representation in the composition. I gotta make sure that the torso has to feel like it's going back in space. The head is coming forward and tilted down in space. The torso has to feel like it's coming back. This weird, fun things happening. I think the pelvis also can go back in space a bit, like she's leaning back. She's got these little tiny legs. Her pelvis is she has proportions that are that read like her pelvis reads as a full-grown woman, which is I think good because she is, like, although small, she's not a child. Some of these depictions will sort of get lost in the fur. We need to feel that there's a bend at this elbow. Which will be tricky, but we'll just be cognizant of it. The light can just simply shift. We'll just have something that feels like that. That's good enough. Making this alrighty, here we go. Let's do now. This is a good reference for what the wolf's face looks like when it's not expressing, or this is just sort of like the default, like he's a wolf with attitude. Kind of depiction. So what I think actually makes sense is for me to use this as a reference to sort of block in where the features will be, and then do another sort of adjustment pass to make sure those the expression is reading, and sort of fine-tune that emotion a bit. Because I haven't fully thought... It's like, this is an idea that I have pretty solid in my head, but not, like, there's the sort of, like, do we just want to make him look dangerous but cool, but also, like, about to bite you? Or is he, like, literally, like, I'm about to, like, lunge and rip your head off? Or is he mid-lunge and we can see all the teeth and it's, like, spit flying everywhere? I think that kind of is not right, because I feel like it... I want to feel tension that has not yet released. So there's the potentiation of danger is at the cusp, but not yet decided to make the attack happen. Maybe. Let's see if we can thread that needle, right? And I said this at the beginning of the stream, but one of the major appeals of this piece, I believe, this is what I'll shoot for, is the juxtaposition of the textures between Midna's, you know, her body slash skin, like her form, which is sort of smooth and you know, whatever, like creamy. I don't know. Compared to the other textures, it's going to be what pose is she doing here? She's holding Danny, you missed this part, I think, but she's essentially holding Link's body as if she is that trope of, like, the small badass character holding a large gun. So when the gun the character is holding is, like, even bigger than their body, like, it's sort of that trope. So she needs to sort of convincingly look like she is ready to fire this weapon, except it's not a weapon, it's like Link the Wolf, right? And so it could be like, she could be jumping, she could just be leaning against him, she could be sort of like riding on the side of him, like, or just like, you know, they're just together in the pose or whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's see here. I was gonna say something. Oh well. Okay, so it's like the nose could be there, for instance. Some of this is tricky stuff, because it's like, well, how big is the nose? All right, yeah, get ready for work. See ya. Thanks for joining. Like, it's a normal day. If people have to do stuff, that just do the stuff you got to do. I haven't been able to stream as much as I want to because of the demands and constraints on my time during the day. And then that stuff sort of like unnecessarily bleeding into my time during the night. Yeah, this looks cool so far. let me do myself a favor. Will it be streaming in 3 hours? I probably won't be, because very likely I will have to I'll probably have to stop around 2. It's in 2 hours, I guess. My kids, neither of my kids are doing like any after school clubs right now, or like drama or whatever, so it's gonna be like I'll be picking them up at the time it is to pick them up. It's looking good so far. Oh yeah, what I was saying was the juxtaposition of her skin, which is skin. So the texture of her skin versus the texture of her helmet, which is sort of this like ancient stone looking metallic-ish thing. Versus like the fur, right? So you have these interesting textures, and when you take the time to actually identify the appeal that can be found in those juxtaposition of textures, that's a big component of like, people are like, wow, this is amazing, or whatever like that. But a lot of what they might be responding to is sort of like the deft handling of the differences between these things that all share space convincingly, if that makes any sense. I do want to, if I can, get like a sense of her little fist grabbing into his hair. And then it's like, so like this hand can be aggressive, and then the other hand is like maybe a little bit of like, there, you know. Like soothing the beast, you know. It's like two things. Right? The smooth stone, the way that these things could feel different yet united in a composition. If it can feel like challenge, yeah, like the challenge of getting those differences honored is successful, then it's just one more good thing, right? She seems to have these interesting Tim Burton-y kind of curls to her outfit when it meets her shoulders, which is kind of cool. I'm just trying to make sure I account for them. Oh, you know, this one could probably, yeah, make it go that way. Make it look like a decision is being made. Not sure what this song is. It's kind of cool so far. if I look up, I can see the image in a sort of a thumbnail like here, it's small to you, of course, but it's big to me. Like it's as big as my hand is so far at this thing. And then at this distance, it's like this big, whatever, like a big piece of paper. Oh, was that Severance? Interesting. It was. Well done. Let's switch over to... Listen, we love the Lord of the Rings lo-fi. Thank you, Chill Astronaut. Hope none of that is AI. And then we all know that the Zelda and Chill is goated. Switch it back a little. Yeah, Sector, if you like that, it was Chill Astronaut, I guess, did. Three days ago, added to the Lord of the Rings lo-fi public playlist. So maybe it's a new song. There's the unavoidable difficulty of wanting to support the fan artist musicians without supporting the those embracing like the AI tech for their music. And maybe some can tell. I cannot tell, like, just from music alone, necessarily. Like, obviously, I can tell when it's, like, make it like this, but different. I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound right, or whatever. But like, stuff where it, like, it's, like, assisted or whatever, it's very difficult for me to be like, oh, this is definitely AI or whatever, just hearing music. I'm not a music genius. And then even when they're not using AI for the music, they'll use it for their thumbnails or the the YouTube or their albums, the album art or whatever. Like that's just as it's like default for that. Unfortunately, like across the board. So it's been hard for me to sort of like can't be as hardline where I guess musicians feel like they can't get an artist to help them. I guess like this is what I can't tell. That's not me saying since I can't tell I don't care. I do care. What is as a result essentially is it sort of like brackets my music tastes to everything like pre-2024 and everything after is like suspect by default, unfortunately. But so it goes. Anyway, but like I apply that to art too. But I can look at art and I can tell, like, I'm like, this is probably AI, or like this is clearly not AI. But I can be confused and so this is looking pretty good so far. I like this pose in the angle. But like I do want it to look, it's tricky because it's like, what does does the nose of a wolf come down more? It kind of does. Did they design Link to be is it clear that it's like obviously wolf, or is it sort of just sort of like, in some ways he sort of just resembles like a husky, right? At least in some of his depictions. That nose might have to move around a little bit because it sort of is determining the extent of the length of the snout. And wolves have, I feel like they have longer snouts. He's got like dreads or something. Oh, okay, that's a good way to interpret the. Yeah, he does. Because that isn't like fur, right? But I like the idea. I like the interpretation of dreads. Ooh, and we can't forget this cool earring. Right? That earring is there. Yeah, it's French fry hair. Or she has the French fry hair, and he kind of has the animal version. And that's sort of a question, is I don't want to make... I'm not trying to give... to honor the like low poly aesthetics here. That might be fun in a different piece, but that's not what I'm trying to do here. So coming up with something that feels like it gets the gets across the interpretation well is sort of the goal. I think this is looking cool so far. Everybody forgive me for having nibbles of the my humble breakfast this morning is nibbles of the crusts of my children's sandwiches that I make them for lunch in their backpacks. Not a bad start. Not a bad way to feed oneself in the morning, but not trying to be rude and eat on stream, or at least not habitually. So I'm loosely indicating it here, just like the sort of boundaries of where the snout is and such. And this is feeling pretty good, but we'll see in a second. I want to flop the image. Maybe we just do that now. All right, yeah, this is looking good. This is sort of interfering over here. Yeah, we don't need that. instead of having her hair... Shit. Button. Instead of having her hair, it was kind of a little bit bunched up at the top of her body. Let's make it sort of come across and maybe like break the silhouette of her hip somewhat. Something. Let's see, it could go like that. That might be the one. There's just something about the negative space here, which was looking like it needed some help, needed some assistance there. How did that diet go last year? I don't want to talk about it. Yeesh. I actually have lost a little weight recently. I'm not like a fat guy. I'm really not, but let's be honest, the challenge is not resistance to eating the snacks of the kids. It's the resistance to like consuming large amounts of alcohol whenever I get bored. That's the challenge. Today I'm doing okay. And I'm pretty happy because later today, theoretically, later today I'm scheduled to start a different, it's a new storyboarding gig basically, and I know the director and everything will go well, so it's nice. So I don't have like pent up anxiety. Start hitting the Kit Kats instead of the drinks. Yeah. Well, no lie, it would be healthier than my normal go-tos. So, you know, if I'm well within my rights to pick up one bad habit in order to put another down. She seems to have this belly button, which is... She's kind of like this goth penguin gremlin. Mm-hmm. Part of her body's feeling just a little bit too smushed up. So I'm trying to find ways of find length and to sort of deactivate this sort of compressed sense that I was not intentionally getting in there. And I think just like I'm just you can tell I'm just like bit by bit shaving off as much of the what feels excessive. That's starting to feel more balanced. Because just looking at these references, like her upper body is like nothingness in relation to her head and her pelvis, right? And it's like, there's things that I want, but it can't come at the expense of good composition. And like, I want to feel like there's an overlap of like her shoulder over her face. But if that just can't work, given the proportion, like realistically, given the proportion, like if you look at like this image, for instance, you know, if she were to shrug, it would be like, I can do it. Like, it's like this. It's like, I can do it, right? But like, this is almost what I'm looking for. But like, if her body is formed as such that it just can't quite reach, then it can't quite reach. That's okay. It's like, that's not the hill to die on. Feeling like I want post to be more like this. It feels like it's working better this way. Getting those wolf eyes looking at us. It could be a fun thing. Like, initially I was thinking maybe like Link is doing more of like a open mouth, like kind of thing. But I think it's cuter if she's doing it, and then he is more like sort of like stoic Link, sort of more recognizable as Link. And again, it's like a little bit of a departure from how I initially saw stuff, but you don't really know what you're gonna do until you start drawing. Start to have these like realizations that like, oh, you know, this is actually better. Always remember to save your work. I've had more than a few people ask questions about the process to make time lapses, and the secret is the iterative saving, which is just saving a whole new file every 5 minutes or so, or less. Yeah. Anytime you do anything that makes anything look different, just save. Obviously, not practical if you don't have storage room or anything like that, but that's how I'm doing it. Just save and save and save, and eventually you just end up with all these files that you can save them as JPEGs, lay them out in a timeline, and that's like an animation of the process. Very simple. It works. It doesn't require like interventions, like, oh, the time lapse just didn't save or whatever like that. It's like, because it's manual, it's sort of like I'm responsible for putting it together. Since I am putting it together, it's sort of like you can do some editing, you know? If like there's parts of it that are boring or whatever, just cut them out. Like you can see that I've flopped the image from the original orientation, but when I do the edit, I'll just keep it all on one thing so that it's not looking disruptive. A little, the anatomy here is nebulous for me, but something about this feels like there's a potential of it looking like she's riding on his shoulder as he's like stalking towards us, and that could be very cool. On his shoulder than somewhere near it. Yeah, I kind of think I have to work my way a little bit backwards. So, like, let's see as much as we can. of like this massive, and in this case, I think this arm is the one that's chained. Assuming everything else is equal. Yeah, this is going to be cool. We're going to have a lot of like lens distortion on this. But essentially, here's a giant paw coming into frame. And his other front paw is going to be like way back here. Which means his back legs are like somewhere like way down there. Or whatever, like we don't even see them. It'll take me a little bit to hunt down exactly what's going on. But like this is the vibe. Shoulders up there. Elbow. Somewhere there. Okay, and she's like sort of riding on like his cuff, his like chained cuff, right? And like these are cool concepts. Like the, you know, I didn't think of like her being so juxtaposed to his chain as initially, at least. But now I'll be like, yeah, I always intended for that to be there or something, right? This is a fun angle because it sort of puts the viewer like literally just on the ground, ready to be mauled. It's like pray for a swift death. I think this has it. Not sure if I'm selling it to the chat though, but I think I can do this. I think this can be good. a fun, different piece. Again. Yes. All right, I am liking this. I think we might have to. I like that. Okay. It's interesting because some things will just look good in a composition. You won't know why. But you also... And it's like, oh, well, if I can't justify what that is, you know, just don't keep it. But maybe you should, you know. Try to figure out why it looks good. Make sure nothing's happening I need to be aware of. The election is tomorrow, apparently. Okay. Just gotta make sure, like, the school nurse isn't calling me or something. Which unfortunately happens a little often. Doesn't look like anything crazy has happened. Wolves have like 5, 4. How many digits do wolves have? How many claws do wolves have? Front paws, 5 claws each, 4 on the ground plus 1 raised demi-claw on the inside. do think I want to make it look like he's stalking towards us. Tail can be like out here, something like that. Maybe claw could be even bigger. Crazy. End up being pretty small at that point, but she is small. It's kind of the vibe now, yeah. The okay, it's like it's chased you down, and it's got its Link's paw is like literally on your chest, so you don't even see it very well, you know. I don't know if I mean, we've all had our time with animals, and animals have this way of like putting, like if they're on your they might be on your chest, and like even just like a small cat, not even a large cat, can be like, you know, I love you, and then they like put a paw down on your chest, and you're like, ugh, you know, pushes you down. I think that's the vibe. Gooner to Goner. Perfect. I think this gets it. I think this gets the sort of point of interest of kind of what we're going for here. This is cool. Do a quick save. So here's an interesting thing that I think I'm gonna try is now that we've sort of established the, because this is what I want. There's something about the there's something about this section that needs a little help. Not sure if that's easy to see. Like this section over here needs a little help. There's a lot of it feels like negative space without that is drawing attention without much payoff. It feels like a lot's going on over here. And I don't know if the solution is to crop it differently, or I don't really want to do that. I think I like how this is looking. But maybe there's something like, can I... Like if I do something with the negative space over here, like, there's a couple things I can think of doing, which mostly is, involves like, okay, let's maybe, extend out her... Sorry. Kind of feels like she needs some of this. Essentially reaching from behind her ear, but then like more into the foreground. And then I think I can address the rest in a kind of play with the negative space, just so it's just doesn't just read as just this wall of hair, but it can have some texture to the silhouette. But even just putting the hand here gives it some sort of payoff, like essentially giving something where like the dreads feel like they are playing or like having something to do with the composition as opposed to just sort of leading to the forehead. And I guess what happens here that makes sense is we have to make sure we're putting in the cool design of the... He's got this insignia or something on his forehead. We have to make sure we're paying attention to. Yeah, this is looking cool. Cool. I bet if we just make sure the insignia is in there. Let's put... Shit. Let's... Fuck me. Okay, so what's about to happen is the whole thing is going to lose its shit on me. Like, see how it's not showing me this layer when I turned it on? Losing all... Let's try to save a see what happens there. No way that's gonna work. No way. So far so good. I have to restart the painter program. It's lost its stability. Yeah, that's interesting. Even the layer, that first layer got deleted. That's interesting. Just close that for now. Even though it's not deleted here, it's deleted in the save. That's interesting. It got lost to memory. We just gotta close that out. We can bring back that little thing. Nothing will matter. Okay. This is the other reason. Yeah, quit unexpectedly. I know. So this is the other reason I have to save it constantly, is because my program is buggy and it doesn't work very well. It's 2026, and this program was last updated in 2023. Actually, 2022. So it will probably never have an update for the rest of my life. And that's sad, because this is my drawing program of choice. But the clock is ticking on it. It will die, and I will not be able to work on it anymore. Sad but true. Sealed its own fate, though. What are you gonna do? Yeah, let's give... Yeah. We're gonna solve all this by simply giving all that hair just a purpose. Just really making sure it... It's like we're gonna feel how Midna's little hand, tiny little hand, is like stroking this really cool fur, and then it sort of goes into dreadlock territory after the fact. Wild chunks of matted fur. Right? Put this, and now let's just get the insignia in there. And then that'll probably be a decent place to start wrapping up. However, I do have a little more time. I like the concept of this. Of all the positions you don't want to be weak in, its concept. It's just sort of like the drawing's purpose for being, right? So it's like... having a cool idea that inspires you. Like the idea, if it inspires you, you know you can find the will to chase it down. Even like this kind of like sort of drippy. That's working right there. That's cool. Oh, this is rad. This is cooler than what I originally was sort of thinking in my head. I'm glad we went with the Imp Midna. You know, it's like you can't love the true form Midna if you don't love the Imp Midna, right? Right? Because she'll know. Bunch of detail that wasn't really needed, but helping me a little bit conceptually. The composition over here needs a little bit of this. Just needs it, right? Now let's do the insignia. That's just what I'm calling the symbol on his head. I'm not sure what it represents. Funny little symbol. Might have to massage that into place a little bit. Does that have a better reference? It's kind of like this twirl. To the extent that this stuff is important, I want it there and represented, but like, not more so than it's called for. For now, we'll treat this like his tail, which I think is logical. It's all just kind of this big mess of stuff. Let's see if I can get some clarity into it. A little dodge and burn. So I think if we sort of control for contrast and just sort of make it clear that there's a lot of interest in like what is happening in the darkness on the bottom left side of frame versus the upper right, which we can still honor while having sort of kind of like in the light. I think it sort of works thematically. You know, we'll have essentially, you know, there's going to be a lot of like light and detail in the upper right, but that'll be counterbalanced by like contrast and darkness in the lower left. And that'll feel like there's like, because if we have like a bunch of like dark details up here, it's going to sort of feel a little weighed down. But if it's in the right proportion, I think we can do justice to how everything is sort of presented here. You know, this should probably just be his it can be pretty ambiguous, but let's make this his other hand. I think that's just fine right there. It's hard to say what's better. That's rad. Now, kind of needs. I like the half-shadowed face of Wolf Link here. It's very much in the thematic, you know, and it's like she has like this shadowed. It's not shadowed, but it's like a colored bit of pattern, a darker color pattern right there on her face there. Yeah, this is working great. Don't know what I should have a title for this. I originally saw this as more of a like a campy kind of send up, like a this is not as it got a little deep. Not deep, but like it's not very one note, which like at first I thought it would be like one note. I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I thought initially the only appeal would have been like just sort of like fun fan service kind of stuff. And so it would be like a little humorous, like tongue-in-cheek humor. And now I'm like, this sort of a little bit goated now. I think it's on its way. it's on its way. I'm happy with the effort put in. Did not have to fight it too much. And it was a fun little bit of exploration along the way. So I definitely feel pretty satisfied with the time and the work put in. Like, I know I'll be able to, like, looking, this is more than just a little germ. This is a really great start to, I think, what will be a good piece. I mean, even the thumbnails. I mean, I think it sells it. If it's to the liking of anybody who likes it will be like, I like that, you know. Whatever it is, I like it, you know. Now the helmet still needs work, and I might as well just sort of putz around on that for a little bit. Anyway, I'm glad you were able to weigh in, Danny. The chat has been quiet, so it's okay. Maybe they're doing other things, but as we know, I'm fueled by both praise and uncertainty and doubt and malice and all of these types of things. So if I don't have some kind of feedback, I'm just sort of floundering a little bit, dead in the water. Oh no, I just appreciate you chiming in. That's it. So when the camera is like this, where it is very like up in and interacting with the subject, that means it's just like we're not viewing this through some sort of long lens, like a telescope, for instance. If we try to think of like lenses, we're kind of like literally talking about like, well, what is like, you know, this almost is like a worm's eye view, right, of the action. And a worm is not, that doesn't really have a long lens. It's sort of like whatever's close to the worm's eye is like as big as a skyscraper, and what is far away is tiny. Even if it is a skyscraper, it's tiny, right? Because everything is far away to a worm, right? So it's like a worm and, to a worm, it's like the sun and the skyscraper might as well be like the same distance away. They're like all very tiny things. The only thing the worm can see is like what's big and what's right in front of it. What that does is it puts distortion on the lens and therefore the image. And what happens is you get this, what is it called? It's curvilinear perspective kicks in, essentially. And our eyes have that too. In the periphery of my eyes, for instance, even though I know that the door jamb is straight and the sides of the door are all straight, right? They're all cut with like precision materials and stuff like that. If I'm really being honest with myself, my eyes can see a curve of the door. Like it's like when it goes up, I can see it curving that way, and when it goes down, I can see it sort of curving away. If I back like the door that's farther away, that looks straight. But when I'm close enough to a door, I can see the curve, and you can see the curve of the corners of your room. All that is because of the distance from our eyeballs to the thing that we're looking at. It's too close to see it flat. If you were looking at the corners of your room through a telescope from a mile away, they would appear very flat. And in fact, everything would be parallel as well, right? Because there's just not a lot of perspective at those distances. When we have the camera this close to the subject, it makes sense to think of things with a kind of curvilinear perspective. And so what that means is the forms of her helmet we're going to have this kind of effect. Whereas normally we would see, if her head was tilted down and we were viewing this through a long lens, we would see the top of her helmet, right? It's almost like if we thought of it like a flattened cylinder, like a squished cylinder, we might see it like that, right? Like that, right? But what I'm going to propose is seeing it more distorted and curved. Because if she's above us, it's going to be, and we're a worm, it's going to be difficult, right? To see the top of her helmet, right? Even if her head is tilted down, right? Like if I get my head close, like if I get, like I can tilt my head down, but if I get my head close to the camera, you're not really going to see the top of my head, right? God, I'm so old. Where's the damn filter on these things? I gotta really cut down on the carbs. They're making me poofy. And then shave and make myself look beautiful with Botox. But yeah, so we're not gonna we're essentially gonna curve the top of her helmet away. I think that's what I want to try and do. And that'll reinforce this sense of how small we are. I think that's what the effect is going to be. So let's do it. Let's get that in there. We are the cheapest gas in town. It's so busy. Oh, okay. That makes sense. I do myself hunt for cheaper gas, and I not hunt, but like between the equidistant gas stations around me, the cheap gas station is the only one that gets my business right now. I live in an expensive part of LA, so there's no such thing as like cheap gas near me, but it's not just the price of gas, it's the price of life. It's like incredible. So like if I can save $5 on a fill up by like, you know, being choosy about where I choose to spend my money, it's important. Adds up. So not surprising that you are being busy. Hopefully that is a good thing for you. Yeah. Do-do-do. Where's the bait at, though? The, people will have to use their imaginations. And they will, I'm sure. Danny, your innocent brain. If only I could get you to draw more of this stuff, man. Well, I'm drawing it now. Do you mean on stream? Because this would be one I wouldn't mind trying to see to completion on stream. I know that this is important to somehow. Well, listen, I'm here to give the people what they want. What I'm gonna do is I'll post this rough drawing, because even my rough drawings seem to do pretty well socially, and then maybe it'll have like a huge interest, and I'll be like, whoa, gotta get back on stream. Stream this out. This would be a goated piece. Goated. Probably put like a sunset, or like not a sunset, it'll be a moon. Here, I'll fill that in later. Let me get my drawing in. Quadruple check, make sure. We're living dangerously on the stream today because it's normally the time like my wife wants to call and chat on her way home from work or something. And she knows I'm booked later today, so it's not like she would care, but but I've got my phone on silent. That's the dangerous part. Nothing is more dangerous than just sort of presuming ahead of the fact that no one needs to get ahead of you, get a hold of you that day. That is not wise. Yet here I am. You're too good at this stuff to spend time on boring subjects, man. Sorry, I'm tired rambling, although I mean it when I say you're epic at this. I know, and it's I know, I am amazing. No, but like I drew some really boring stuff like last week, this week. I mean, it wasn't even that boring, but it was like, you know, it's also true that I'm drawing it for people who are, you know, they barely care about their own jobs, or they're just, you know, overly stressed about a nothing burger and like they're, you know, here's my, despite the fact my phone is on silent, my wife is somehow able to break through. So of course she's trying to call. But I know she's fine. She doesn't need to talk to me right now. she texted back to say she can get them. Okay. Well, I'll still have to wrap up the stream in the next 10 minutes, but... But this is this is exactly what I wanted to do, is come up with something that felt goated. Because if I don't have anything in the pipeline that feels like it's like advancing my personal mission to bring the max goated art movement to the masses, it's bad for my psyche. Causes psychic damage, real psychic damage to me. Oh, look at me, I drew this all completely sober. I was brave. Friends came out. Super helpful. Save. All right, let's see here. I've been thinking about paying me to do more. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Gotta get this man on some good subs. I mean, this is a good one, isn't it? If I could get more, more time is sort of the issue. And it's just sort of like even if you like had like tons of money to throw at me or something like that, it still doesn't rearrange like the way I have to structure my time, which is sort of like the how long did that Link's Awakening beach sketch take you? Because that sketch is one of my faves yet. It is a sketch that took me like 15 minutes, whatever. I gotta come back to that one. That one, see, that one feels like I need to make it so amazing that I have to like continue to think about it more. Even though it's like the sketch is good, let's just work on it, right? But it's like to me it feels like it needs more incubation. And not only that, like what also is interesting is like I've put out pieces that like were like a year and a half ago or something like that. Some of the coolest stuff I did before I had any traction on social media, and then it's all buried that like people barely even see. So kind of what I'm trying to do is design for like growth right now, and then like that's something I'd want to be known for, but if you release it at the wrong time, it's like it works against your purposes, kind of, right? Okay, this is looking very cool. Do a quick save. And so kind of like how we have like a lot of dark down here in the lower left, let's add some middle gray, darkish middle gray to the upper right, and see what happens. Just in the negative space, right? So even though like, oh, well, Midna has dark parts of her skin and her helmet is dark, so is she dark? And it's no, she's going to be sort of lit and therefore bright in the composition. It's because she's mostly in the light with what I'm setting up. It's going to be the shadows that are dark, and the shadows are on the lower left orientation of the page. what I like is this is going well so far in that what I really don't like is when the compositions, when they come together, if you got to do what you got to do, but I don't like it if well, it's not, I don't like it. I don't prefer it if there are issues where, like, even if I'm drawing well, sometimes I'll be like, oh darn it, I really need to like nudge everything over a couple centimeters or something. That's just something that when you have to do it, you have to do it. Or like if I have to rotate something or resize something, and I did some of that in the beginning, but that wasn't a big deal. But let's say like it got this far and I needed to like make Midna's whole head bigger or something like that. I wouldn't want to do that. It would make it look like I'm less brilliant by making corrections, and it makes me sound like a douche. But it like, because the interest in like the speed paint / time lapse has been quite encouraging. I know that whatever that can happen that sort of makes that look like a smooth, impressive process is good. It is also good, however, for things to be realistic and humbling and relatable, of course, but rarely is it a necessary step for me to make adjustments like that. That more or less comes almost solely as a result of not fully considering and thinking through all the steps that I advocate for constantly. Like double checking your like when you think about your angles and you really think about them, it sort of becomes pretty obvious what orientations you need and the angles you need. So we don't need to make all those adjustments after the fact. It's okay to make them, of course, especially for any normal person watching this and stuff like that. That's normal. Because it's normal to skip steps, but in like conceiving a composition or whatever. But for me, he was trying to set an example of like, here's what can happen if you don't skip steps and everything just goes really well. It's embarrassing because it points out that even I skip steps. It's unintentionally, but it does happen. If I theoretically paid you 8 hours worth of your normal work, theoretically, then you could have a fan art a day, right? Theoretically. Yeah, like if it was... Now, I'm not necessarily comfortable disclosing what I earn in a day doing the storyboarding stuff, but it is a lot. So it's not... It's not like comparable to what other people charge for commissions. It's not like that. It's a lot, and I wouldn't want that to be on any single person. What would make more sense, because it, like, let's just say like you're a billionaire or something like that and you have the money for it. That's great, except at that point, all my eggs are sort of still in one basket. That's not sustainable either. What I've learned is it's not sustainable either to just have like one good patron. You kind of need to have that distribution. So, and I appreciate the vote of support and all that stuff, but it's that isn't really the goal, is to hook a whale. And I don't want that person to be you. But if you became a billionaire via some sort of amazing thing, I'd allow some patronage. But yeah, unfortunately, what happens at this point is that because my work does pay well when I get it, I have to prioritize it. That's it. And later today, that's a factor. So, okay, so we've got that negative space in there. Now what we can do is lock off those pixels. So this is the negative space, right? We can lock off those pixels and then paint into that some light and dark. Let me do a quick save. What's interesting is I actually prefer the white. Yeah. Well, there you go. I like it better like that. I guess it's kind of like this is the like, there you go. That's the moon, right? Bottom left looks like a cloudy sky. It's going to sort of be wispy, like blurry, like a blurry representation of either atmosphere or I mean, hell, let's just make it all white. Who cares? But it looks better this way. It just looks better that way. What are you gonna do? You know? And it's like, yes, it's nighttime, but fuck it. We'll make it bright where we want it to be. It's all for the composition, right? Yeah, it looks goated that way. Didn't need much trickery with any of that. One thing we can do, though, so we've isolated the negative space. What we can do if we select that layer content, so that's still the negative space. The negative space layer content actually represents the inverse of the positive space. So if we invert the selection, create a new layer, fill that, sorry, we'll have a fill of the positive space. And what that will do is give us something dark that we can maybe brighten up and see what that looks like. This looks kind of cool just like this. But let's bring some glow to it. Why not? Something like that, right? My glow. Little glow tool. I'm not a big cheater with glow tools and such, but I think in this case we can justify some. Now the glow tool in this program doesn't have a big enough brush. This is post-worthy? I think it is. Yeah, I think I've already more or less decided to post. Here, what we coming up with. Even just like if you zoom out like that, it still looks cool, right? And that's how you know you have something cool. If it looks cool when you're zoomed out, you can't even tell what it is. It just looks cool. I was like, I don't even know what that is, but I like it, you know? That's the reaction you want the viewers to have. I still kind of liked it even when it was just sort of flat dark. That's kind of cool. A little bit of this. You can always See, what's interesting is like here we can kind of see, like in the cutout of the silhouette, like the negative space of his dreadlocks and such. There's similarities to the French fry hair, you know, that she has. And we'll have similarities with like, you know, and I'll bring this and I'll accentuate it, but like similarities with like the ears and such. Just something where, you know, the elements call back to each other. Danny, thank you. My wife is picking up the kids today, so that's good. I do want to finish up in the next minute or so, but I might as well, you know, if we're gonna make a masterpiece on stream, might as well finish it off, you know, here in the rough form or whatever. I just want to make sure there's nothing left that I feel like I need to address. Give it the old flip, see what it looks like this way. That looks awesome. Love it. Goated. Do a quick save. I don't trust my program not to crash when I'm flipping it. There is, like, this little bit right here, I can see, like, it needs, this needs a little love right here. Because this is supposed to represent her hair sort of curling up from behind her. Yeah, I don't want to noodle it too much right now. Yeah, my boo, she's definitely on the case picking kiddos up right now. She texted me, so that is the confirmation. That feels like the light is hitting. I also want to feel like some of that light is sort of penetrating in a little bit here. Maybe even like some opportunities like that. Maybe some awesome 15-minute sketches. They're goated. I can dream about the whole picture and then everything there, talking about scenes like the beach. 15 minutes for a whole lot of work. Yeah. All right. See ya. I'm gonna quit out actually right now too. So I want to say thank you everybody for joining in, keeping me company. Made some goated art today. Doesn't happen every day. Unless you're me. No, just kidding. No, but I do appreciate it. It's my first stream back after a while. Got started. It's always the hardest part, most important part. And we are excited. Excited to see where we go from here. All right. Can I remember to do a 50-50 thumbnail? All right, that's not too bad. What's all this crap on my... Oh my god. I need to work on my lighting setup. I need some sort of filter that... Where's the... Didn't they solve aesthetics by now? It's like I need... Yeah. That's goofy stuff. All right, I think it's off to a good start.